Hey, so look, I'm so excited to have you guys at the seat of the table. Obviously, the reason why we do these conversations and have them is because we want to talk about issues that are pertinent in the education, or not in the education system, but in our communities. But today I want to talk about the education system, not just across the country in the urban environments, but I want to go back to my hometown, my city, where I'm from, in Jersey City. And it's the reason why I brought you guys on, because you guys are leaders in the community. People look to you guys, and your teachers and board members and so forth. So I want to start off with this question. Is the education system as currently constructed in our environment, is it broken, or is it best serving our kids?
I mean, it's a tough one because you never want to get into it with a broke mindset, or it's broke, or it's a system that we're operating under right now. Right now, do we have to fix some things? Do some things need to be done, reform, and things like that? Sure, but for the most part, the system, I believe it works, and depending on the sacrifice and the effort that educators and the community put, into the institution, it, the results come, So, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's broken.
Yeah, to piggyback off what Chris said, I think there's some components that kind of need a little bit more attention that may not be getting attention. So I think as constructive, it can work, to its maximum potential, but I think there's some room for growth.
But let's talk about it, because I grew up, and you know how it is, man. Like certain schools just have bad raps. I'm gonna be straight up. Certain public schools, I'm not talking about the academics of the world. Like, they're always gonna be the golden child. But when I look at even stats, how we're performing in standardized exams, not that that's the determinant of how successful we are, what our graduation rates are. I see incremental growth, but I don't think it's at a place where we're proud of, collectively.
Yeah.
So I want to let's just dig a little deeper, man. What is wrong? Or we talk about there's areas for improvement. I don't know if Crystal or Jerry, you guys have any thoughts, but what are those areas that we can improve?
I have an issue with some of the stuff from the Jersey School Board that we've been trying to address. Equity is one of the biggest issues, and this was made very clear this past year with the pandemic, because there was kids that were without technology at home, and or there might have been one source of technology for several siblings to use. There were kids that didn't have a hotspot at home, so if they had homework to do and they couldn't get on the internet, then Joe, if you have the internet and you have a computer to work by yourself, and Chris has the internet but shares a computer, and Crystal has no internet and has to find a computer to use, obviously you're not gonna have the same level of, it's most probable you will not have the same level of success. So what we started doing then over the summer, the school board bought a ton of iPads so that everyone would have a Chromebook, a ton of Chromebooks, and gave out hotspots. But it took the pandemic for us to be able to say, this is an equity issue. Yeah. So that's one of the things that came out of the pandemic. So now we're told that we have enough Chromebooks for everyone to have one. But it took a crisis to get that to happen. And years we've been discussing it and saying how we get more hotspots so someone can use their cell phone to have internet access at home. But it was in conversation, it took a crisis to get it to really be pushed to the front burner.
You know what, I would like to say that it's, it's a matter of resources, right? So, education is it's a part of a group of systems, at play that operate inside of our community, right? So education is an institution, and an institution inside of a community. There's many other factors that there's a lack of resources, right? Yeah. So if you go to other communities, they didn't have a lack of technology because technology is inside of the home, right? Yeah. But technology is not inside of most of our homes because, afforded, prioritized. So the school system picks up the slack at times inside of the community, right? It tries to fill in some of those gaps, and that's a lot for an institution, to constantly, always do. But we do it, you know what I'm saying? Like we do it because we know that it's necessary. And for me, education is the last institution that can help alleviate, poverty and some of the other circumstances that people and children and students in our community, may face.
But what do you say to people who say, oh, you guys have a $600 million plus budget. We give you tons of money, but we still don't see the improvement that we see. So how is there a resource issue when from a funding perspective, we have funding? Like, do we throw more? I guess here's the question: is the goal to throw more money? Is that going to fix it? To give us the resources that you're talking about, right? Like how do we? And look, let me first say this: I get how complex this issue is. Yeah. It's not a matter of getting the latest tablet, right? It's not a matter of just having a internet. There's a lot of things that go into making this a problem. But I guess there are people who feel like it's just poorly ran. Like, we give you guys all the money. Like, what do you say to that?
No, I mean, I would say to that, the fact that, once again, it's education inside of a whole system. The system's broke. If 80% of my students who are in my school receive free and reduced lunch, that means that there's a whole group of people living at poverty, below poverty, inside of the community. So what are the other remedies that's going to alleviate poverty inside of the community or alleviate those conditions? That's really the problem. And when you start talking about like test scores and things like that and everything else, it's all about resources. When you look at the median income of certain demographics or socioeconomic groups, the more you make, the more higher test scores, this, that, and the third. So there's a correlation to that. And me, I'm a principal inside of a school that has sometimes negative connotations and reputations like that. But my job as a leader is to ensure that I help bring resources inside of the building to meet you at your 12th grade year so that when you leave, you can go somewhere else and do something for your life, but still instilling in you like the why you actually are getting it, why you are here. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't really like operating off a deficit mindset. I like to have a growth mindset, and I like to just basically say, if we put stuff into our students, and that's family, community, and everything alike, then our kids will benefit from it. But we have to do a lot more inside of an urban area than any other segment. I don't care if you go Newark, East Orange, whatever, Patterson, Elizabeth, wherever you're gonna go. We do extreme, we just go above and beyond.
That's fair. So go ahead. So both of you guys are probably really, really close to the students, right? You're a teacher. Are teachers doing enough with what they have? Are the teachers to blame at all for I don't want to say lack of growth, but maybe not performing at the levels that we want them to perform at?
I believe there's many factors that go into that, and it's a full circle. The teachers can't do everything. We need involvement from the parent. We need involvement from the community. That's why I like the whole community school forum, because it gives you what you need. They feel like if you educate the parent and you give them the resources that they need in a community, it will help develop the student better. But by no means do I think that teachers are responsible. I mean, me personally, we teach together, so I know that we pour into, and we don't just pour into on an academic level, we pour into the entire kid. As I said in my bio, I'm a mom, I raised my own 2 boys, and I know how important education is. And that's the same thing that I instill in the boys that go to PS-15, boys and girls. But me, for some reason, more boys. Like, I pour into them. Like, you are more than what you see. I don't care what's going on at your home. So it's far more than academics for me.
What do you think, Jack?
Just kind of to piggyback off what she said, it's kind of important to think that when we think about educating children and the task that we have, based on what they expect, the expectation is, we do a lot more. And we know that, coming into it, we don't look at, what we can do as far as whatever compensation or things like that. We know that we will be asked to do things that we could probably say, you know what, that's not really what I do. Right? I'm not supposed to do that, I'm not supposed to make sure, a child is eating after school or has uniform shirts. But in my career, I've bought tons of uniform shirts. I've paid for tons of things. But we do that to just because we understand that how that can impact the whole child and his mentality about how he feels about school. And I think that's where a lot of the gap is when I think about,
So let me say this. I personally, I think teachers are underappreciated, in my opinion. especially in our hood. I think a lot of teachers are expected not just to be teachers, they're expected to be fathers, they're expected to be mentors, they're expected to be leaders. And there's a deficit at home. So I don't think they don't get paid enough. And that's a whole nother, we can have a whole nother show and episode, on that. But I do want to double click on, because you brought up some good points, environment. And I think I want everybody to chime in on this. A lot of our kids, man, they grow up in a household without a dad, right? Or they're exposed, and you and I talked about this. We used to say sometimes you see kids outside, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, just roaming the streets, no accountability at home. Yeah. How does environment impact or affect their ability to learn, right? I still can't fathom how you're not even eating sometimes, and your kids are coming to school and learn.
So I want to say one thing before they answer the question. There definitely has been some type of shifting, because again, I go back to me going to school and my brother, my dad wasn't in the house, and we might have had some of the same concerns that kids have now, but there was no type of excuse. Like, we were expected to go to school, do our learning, come home. Like, there were standards that was set. So I sat yesterday dwelling like, what shifted? What happened that we had the same set of circumstances and we still did well? We didn't have as much resources as these students have now. We didn't have computers and all. I remember having one computer at PS33 that we all used, but we came out there was not an option for me not to be an A student. So what happened? What was the shifting? What happened that made these changes occur?
Yeah. Look, every generation handles this stuff differently, right? I do think these are traumatic experiences, though. Sure. Like, if you grow up in a household where daddy was locked up, I had some guys in our previous episode where his father was locked up when he was 12, 11 years old.
My family
Another
member.
dude whose mom died when he was a kid, and his father died in prison because he was depressed that he lost his wife. So he had no parents. He was an orphan. You can't, and then no one's holding you accountable, and then you're expected to come to school the next day, and they got real issues coming home. Some parents doing drugs. So everyone handles trauma differently. True. I think we're in a space now where there's more attention on mental health, and there's more attention on, they're responding to some of these traumatic things, in my opinion.
And the schools have taken on not just academics, but the whole social emotional, which we weren't doing when I was in school. You came to school to learn about academics, and whatever else was going on, you went home or you went to a program, or those students went to a special program at they used to call it Traduce 32 school. They were like busted, they went somewhere different. So you didn't even see these things. And I'm sure that they had these traumas going on, but they kept it contained somehow.
And this is why I want to see more, and I don't know, you guys are more in touch in the education system. Are our guidance counselors being trained to have these conversations?
No.
Because I know at the time, I only see my guidance counselor when I'm ready to apply for a school at best, right? Are they having these conversations with, it's okay, you need to get therapy? I don't know, you know what I mean?
Well, I think on a secondary level, it depends on the school district and the functioning roles of guidance counselors, or school counselors. It depends on that role. At secondary level, it's all about, staying on track, make sure you have the credits enough to do this, that, and the third. You want to go to college, you want to do this, you want to do that. What's life like after, high school? So those conversations, are had. I think sometimes when we look at this issue, though, we got to start asking, basic questions. Number one, who's failing, quote unquote failing, or who's at risk? Because, when you start talking about the education system in the United States, you start looking at issues of race and equity, right? And nobody really focuses and talks about this enough, right? We're just a couple of, we were two generation away from Brown versus Board, right? Where you had to tell a country that, these, black children can actually be educated, with you, right?
Yeah.
You had military and everybody else trying to protect the right to just simple stuff as being educated, right?
True.
In Jersey City, we're at the, we're at the beginning of this whole equity conversation, with Cahill versus Robinson and different cases like that happen that are the precursor for Abbott, right? And Abbott, what are you saying? You're saying that because one area receives more resources, they can adequately fund their education.
Yeah.
And this community cannot do it because the resources and the incomes that are within that particular area don't do it like Short Hills.
Correct.
Right? So now those same children are inside of a community that has been redlined and marginalized for decades, and you place them all inside of one geographical area, and then no resources, no dough, no money, struggling, all sorts of social programs that are doing that, and then you bring in children to school. So our job is to work to undo some of the systematic racism, the systematic things that have caused people to be in that condition. Now, when you have that conversation, sometimes people say, well, you know, you're making excuses for them. I'm not making excuses. I did not design a system of racial injustice. I didn't design a system that promotes, you know, inequity. So what has to happen is folks have to go into that institution with a conscious mindset to say that the reason why I'm here is to liberate you from the conditions that you're in, and you had nothing to do with it. But we got to do something we got to do something about it. Yeah. And that's where we at, like in this education field, right? Yeah. So we got to fill in all those gaps because other people did them dirty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Jerry, you sit on the board, right? You're having a lot of these conversations at a broader scale. Is this making the table? Like, are we talking about just, you mentioned that, look, we said it was an equity issue, but I'd love to, are we talking about the impact that the environment is having on our kids? Like, I'm just trying to get my hands around, and the next question follows, how do we fix it? But maybe you could shed some light on what are the conversations about specifically environment or, you know, issues outside of the school that's impacting the kids?
If I can touch what Crystal said, when I started teaching in '87 at the vocational schools, before they were county prep and high tech, there weren't things like the INRS, Intervention and Referral Services, because you were the teacher. You weren't getting involved in their family life. You weren't hearing about who's got other situations. You were there to teach, and basically it was kind of overstepping your boundaries if you knew too much about the kids. Yeah. And that morphed over the years that I was there, 34 years I was in the district, to where you were getting much more involved with the social issues that were impacting those kids' success. And then you came up with this whole thing of there was a whole I&RS team, Intervention and Referral Services, to help the district understand what's impacting these kids' success. And that was a big issue. Where Chris is talking about, you have like areas of school and there's inequities. And part of what I personally don't like in the Jersey School District is we have a program called the HOPE program. And the HOPE program is in schools where, I think it's kindergarten and first grade, they start evaluating you as a student, and you have the teachers writing you up saying Johnny is doing well in this, Johnny is staying on grade level, Johnny's got a vocabulary of X. And then they start weeding out the top 25 or 33%. Some schools take a quarter, some schools take a third. And those kids are then decided to go into the HOPE program. The HOPE program has them from second, third, fourth, and then fifth and sixth, or something like that. Yep. And those kids are weeded out from the other kids. And they are then taken, they're like the cream of the crop. And so you take the best students out, you put them in this program. And one teacher said to me, I have two groups of kids, but the principal said to me one time, I have two groups of kids in my school. I have the HOPE and the hopeless. Because what you've done then is you've consolidated all the kids who are not prone to success, all the kids who have issues, all the kids who have behavior things, you've consolidated them all into this one program. The other kids have the same teachers for 3 years working with them, getting to know them. And the threat is that if you screw up, if your attendance is bad, if you're fighting, if you're failing a class, guess where you go?
To the hopeless.
Back to the hopeless. So it's such a motivator for those kids. And then those kids disproportionately get accepted into MS4 and Academy 1. And the MS4 and Academy 1 kids disproportionately get accepted into McNair, High Tech, and County Prep. So by second grade, the trajectory for your success has been impacted by how well you did in first grade and kindergarten. And the whole system, I think what they should be saying is, okay, we have these 25 kids. Why is Johnny not doing as well as this student? You know, what can we do instead of saying, Johnny, you're going to be left with this group, and weeding out? It's the same as comparing County Prep, High Tech, and McNair to Dickinson, Ferris, and Lincoln. You know, when they're saying, here's their test scores in County Prep, here's the test scores in Lincoln. Well, County Prep picked their kids. You picked, and I worked there, but you cannot compare apples and oranges. It's not fair. Right. You know, so we're saying that if you looked at what the needs were of the County Prep kids as opposed to the kids from Snyder, it could be very different. There might be much more needs there. So I think what you're saying, Joe, is it environmental? It's definitely environmental. If I know when I was working with the evening program that my kids would not come into school because the bus stop was where gangsters hung out and the kids couldn't go to that bus stop to get on the bus to come to County Prep, the evening program, because they were afraid of the gangs. So if that's going to impact your day, if you're not even going to be able to get on the bus safely, you know, how can you expect, and you know that when you're getting off that bus at night, are they going to be waiting for you then? Yeah. You know, so it's how are you going to be able to focus on
what you're doing that day. Same thing if you go to school and you're hungry. How are you gonna be able to focus on, here's my math questions if your stomach is growling? You know, so there's all these variables that can impact your success.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback on what Mr. Lyons is also saying as well, I think is that it's important because the hard part about it all is with everything he just said, is we're comparing the two. And that's where it's unfair. Mr. Gaston here, he's in a school which is not McNair, right? So if you're gonna do that, right, which I'm with Lyons, I disagree with that. But when you start comparing the two now it's like, because remember, decisions are made at the top level, right? When you're talking about policy, you're talking about, how are we gonna address certain issues? All they do is they look and say, look at this school, number one in the state, and look at this school. You can't even compare the two, but those are the underlying conversations that don't happen on the broader scale, right? So when you publish these things in the paper and say, so-and-so's high tech is number one in the state, right? And you don't give those details, right? Yeah. The average American or the average citizen doesn't know what goes into the process that he just outlined. That's like, it's almost criminal to me to think about.
Very biased.
I get it. I mean, I couldn't even get an academic back in the day. So I know how complex it is, but
I like to twist it a little bit. I don't really necessarily have a problem, with McNair or high tech or county prep and the child because like here's what I do as a parent, right? I push, right? And I'm challenging you, my daughters and everyone else to succeed, excel, and maybe at times I put too much pressure on them, right? So now those environments, because I had worked 1 year at an accelerated school, and I saw that there was a need, for those students to be in that environment, because they have to challenge and motivate, because like we're inside of this society where, competition matters, right? So you're in competition mode, right? You're actually competing against the person who's gonna steal your job later on, right? You're gonna be competing, so you gotta take your game up to the next level. Now, me as the principal of Lincoln High School, I don't never make that comparison, with, McNair, because, I understand the criteria, and sometimes in life, you're gonna have to have criteria. If you have a certain GPA and you have this, that, and the third, you're gonna get academic scholarship somewhere. You're gonna do the things that you need to do in order to promote and get yourself to the next level. So in that regard, I have no problem with that. The things I have a problem with is the fact that, folks and educators and the whole, community alike gotta understand, number one, what caused deficit? You got to change mindsets, because here's the problem. We could say them, they, and everything else. We use all those pronouns. And what sometimes happens is we inadvertently say those black children, those Latino children, this, that, and the third. And if we're not conscious of that, sometimes of our implicit, biases and all the rest of those type of things, we can actually start, if we're not correcting them, we can start, doing other things, bad practice, low expectations, and all the rest of those things follow. You know what I'm saying? So like what I'm saying is that, we gotta really address the 900-pound gorilla in the room, race and economics. We're gonna be talking around and around and everything else like that, but as long as our children and their families don't have enough, those parents can't sit back and really focus on the foundation or the block, because everybody's in survival mode.
Right.
And what's more important, roof overhead and surviving, or you relying upon the expertise of a teacher and you're praying that you get that teacher who can help alleviate some of that stress for you in the second grade. Correct. So that's why when I go to the schoolhouse as a parent, I'm going into the schoolhouse, I'm like, well, who do you have teaching that grade level? I want my child there. See, because that teacher is going to, based off the reputation, based off what I heard, I'm going to put my child over there. And that's what, we do as a community. So I don't have a problem with competition. I have a problem with lack of resources and people, not addressing the needs of particular groups of people. Black and Latino children. When you look, I don't care what data you look at, you can go all around this country, and people are not addressing those systematic issues.
So here's the thing. I think what they were saying is not that they were opposed to, but if we're going to compare, we need to understand the full data. Sure. So it's not because academics kids are, or teachers are better in academic and teachers suck at Lincoln or Snyder. It's just that you got a different hand. If I coach a basketball team and I got LeBron and AD I'm coaching a team and I got me, Jack, who's gonna win, right? Obviously LeBron, because you got a good hand. So I think
Jack
that's
can
what we're
play
going
well
to.
too.
But I don't think we should look at it as like, I don't think we should look at it as like who's winning.
No, but people are. That's my point.
Yeah.
Is, but people are, and the reason why is that they're trying to understand why certain schools aren't doing well. So they say, okay, let me look at the data. I got this school doing well, this school's not doing well. You're not doing well because your teachers suck, or you're not doing well, and that's not necessarily true. Sometimes we weed out the kids. Now, I think what we have a consensus around is that the challenges are complex, and it's not as simple as getting a tablet, or it's not as simple as, teacher needs to upgrade how they deliver the message. It's a lot of moving parts, and therefore the solution, in a sense, the solution also has to be more than just school. And I want to just spend just a minute or two talking about what can we do as a community to help our school system. Because I can't put that on you, Chris. Can't put that on you, Jack. I can't put it on you, Crystal. Jerry, I can't put that on you. I, as a parent, have to do my part. And as a parent, I don't necessarily mean that for my daughters, I got to help them, but I also need to take the baton and mentor other kids. I need to take the baton and help other men. You as a black male teacher, what I think is phenomenal, you're right, you're not just a teacher. To some guys that look at the father figure. I love AI, and he talked about his coach at Georgetown. That's what kept him out of trouble. That was like his dad. So it's these things. So I guess I can hear from everybody, just like a 1 minute, how can we fix the education system as is collectively as a unit? What are some things that if somebody's watching, says, I hate it, I want to do something, like what can we do to make a difference? And we'll go around the horn this way. Jack, I'll start with you.
I think most importantly, we need to educate our community about some of the issues that we do have, right? Where are we falling short, right? Where are the issues? Because once we are able to understand that, maybe we can start to work together to address certain things. Like, for an example, I'll have a student who's having a bad hair day, right? Whatever the case may be, the parents didn't do the hair, or whatever the case may be. She comes to school, and just because of something so similar, the kids may say whatever they may say, then you get reactions, you get, negative reactions. And as a teacher, I have to come in, I have to I've done that plenty of times, right? Kid has a graduation, no haircut.
Yeah.
He doesn't even want to go to his own graduation, take pictures. Well, I take the kid literally to the corner, I pay the guy to cut his hair, he comes and takes pictures, right? But those are small things that we don't understand. There's the disparity, right, between what we understand as a community, how the schools are supposed to function. Because I think someone mentioned this earlier, I think Crystal, it was more so like we're seeing that so much is being put on schools now. I think a lot of the households are taking steps back, away. That's not how we're supposed to step together, right? So if I'm doing haircuts, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing tutoring, or I'm spending time with these kids, or I'm taking them on AAU teams to play basketball and coach, like you need to bring him, for example.
Yeah.
Why do I have to also pick him up too?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm already servicing beyond what my job description is, but I'm going even, you want me to go to the house.
They don't pay you enough for that.
Yes, in a remote situation, me and her, we teach remotely together. She's like, the last thing is go to their house and log on for them. Like, go through the door.
Legit.
Like, I can't, what more can I, this is what we tell parents in these meetings, like, we need more involvement and we need to work together. And that's where I think it's happening now, generationally, and I'll end with this thought. Generationally, I think what's happening, someone said, where did the shift go? I think what's happening is, as we're in a generation of younger parents, right? Yes. And what's happening is, there's a rebellious mindset, right, with the younger parents, right? Because they may not have liked how they grew up. Mom was saying I got to be in the house before it's dark. I got to do my homework first before I can do anything else. So I think we get a little bit of a rebellious community where these kids are a lot younger. Said, my mother, I hated my mother, my grandmother or my mom told me to do this. So baby, you don't have to do this. You don't have to sleep at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. But like my grandmother used to tell me, I have to be in bed, before 8 o'clock. So you know what, child, son, daughter, you know what, you don't, I know that didn't make me happy.
Yeah.
And I'm so close to that age where I made those decisions that I would still remember the trauma. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like I was 10 a long time ago, right? And now I'm so far removed and understand why my grandmother told me to go to bed at 8 that I see why. I'm still 20 years old and I'm like, yo, it wasn't that long ago. And my mother told me I gotta go to sleep at 8. Yeah. So I know your pain. And I think we need to just do a little bit more assimilation and just really work together.
Kristen?
I agree that there needs to be a commitment from all parties. I think the value of education has shifted a lot. And I don't know if it's shifted because the parents are just not interested or because they have so much on their plate just trying to survive. But there's definitely a shifting. And again, I'm gonna go back to the community school. The model of the community school is if we get the parents and give them the resources and educate them, then we can get to the child. Until we do that, it's not going to work out. So again, collectively, we all need to come together, parents, community, and just do a work if these kids are to succeed.
That's true. Jerry?
I agree, both of you. It's too big of a job for just the teachers, the school district. You know, you have to have City Hall, all the elected officials involved in saying, what can we do to help? We need to recruit the businesses, have them come in and start saying, mentoring kids. There's a great program run by Juanita Saflet for the district where they do internships for the kids. And the kids come out of that with incredible experience. I went to judge one of them this past summer. The kids all had to do like, what's that show where you come on in front of the 4 judges?
Tank?
Say it again?
Shark
Tank.
Yeah.
They had to do a Shark Tank presentation. The one girl had a great project on knitting books for left-handed people, because if you knit, it's all done for right-handed people.
Yeah.
And as a left-hander, I said, that's brilliant. And I said, I think you can do something with this. But she learned not just about the book, she learned the whole process of how you set up your own entrepreneurship. And she had these mentors working with her. That was done through the community by 3 graduates from, I think they're from your school, and they work out of Bayonne. It's all the people together. It's just too big of a job for us to be isolated. On the school board, I started the legislative committee because there was a big gap between City Hall and the school district, no communication. So what we started doing is having meetings with the council people, with freeholders, with county executive, with any of the elected officials, say, how can you help us with this kind of stuff? And hopefully, if we get everyone at the table, like you say, then we'll have more information and get more work together. But if not, it's too much for just the teachers to do. No matter, you can help that one kid and take him out and get a haircut and pay tons of money out of your pocket all year long. Teachers do all the time, buying school supplies. You can help a few of them. But if more of us got help from the outsiders, even just the Jersey City school budget is destroyed. If we were to get more people to help us to get more funding in there, so teachers weren't buying all their own school supplies, so kids were not having to struggle to get in there. You know, I think that it's going to be, the whole community has to really step up.
Chris?
If I can, surmise, I guess it would just be resources and partnerships. You know, when you have resources and partnerships, because, you know, the lack of causes deficits. But if you can have a school community kind of like work together, similar with the community school models, similar to what Mr. Lyons said, you know, about getting some of the privates and you know, having cities commit, because, you know, educating a child is really a community effort. And I know sometimes like we talk about it like it's cliche, it takes a village to raise a child, but that's truly, you know, what it is. So, you know, me, I'll never, you know, like to throw blame or say this is solely responsible. It's the organism. There's something wrong within the structure, something wrong within the system, right? So, you know, we can address inequity. We can confront the realities of, of our community, and we can give partnerships, really bring that into the schoolhouse and give people resources. Our scholars will fly.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I don't want to be repetitive on everything you guys said. I think what you guys said was spot on. As a private citizen, as a Jersey City native, this is the reason why I started my foundation. Is because I was tired of talking about the problem, and I wanted to be part of a solution, right? And Jerry, you sit on our board, you kind of know all the things that are happening. This is my life work. I'm dedicating my resources, everything I got, to make sure that we can lift the generation. And I'm thinking if everybody had that mindset, right? The council people work for us. People in City Hall, we elect them, right? If we said, if you work for us, if you don't pay attention to this, we don't elect you. And it's hard to do that, Chris, when I can't even put food on my table. And that's why you know, we have another segment on how do we lift the economic status of our people. Because we gotta have that conversation. If we're gonna have real liberation, we gotta be free financially. And that comes with education, that comes with knowledge. And that's one of the reasons why we created the seat at the table, because we have to bring awareness on these topics. So with that being said, look, I believe we're going to change this. And Jersey City is gonna be a place where people say, I want my kids to go to school in any school in that city. May not happen today or tomorrow, right? But I see it. I can see it coming, and it's because of people like Chris, it's Jerry, Crystal, Jack, and that's why I have you guys at the seat of the table. So look, I'm appreciative. I'm grateful. Keep fighting the fight. I know it's hard. I know you people may not see like people are looking at it, man, but I've been watching all of you guys from afar. I'm rooting for you. Maybe next time you can come rap for us. I see some of your raps, man. But nah, seriously, man. I appreciate it. So look, let's continue to build. But again, I'm just grateful to have you on the show. So we're gonna wrap it up. Again, thank you guys. Please tune in. Education. It's a big part of our community. We gotta stick to it. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for joining the show. So appreciate it today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Awesome.